stuff. Let me bring in Liberal Senator for South Australia, Alex Antic, who's been a strong voice on these sorts of issues all along. It's just heartbreaking to see that incident unfolding in a park in this country, our liberal democracy, police arresting people on that basis.
Yeah, Chris, look, it's hard to watch actually when you think for a range of reasons. But I mean, I think one is simply that this is what our country's become over the course of the last 2 years. We've sort of gone from being a country of knockabout larrikins to a country of dobbers and of authoritarians. And look, I make no criticism of the police. I mean, I wouldn't want to be doing that job.
No, they're doing their job.
They're enforcing the law. Yeah, and I make no criticism of the courts, frankly, either, because they're there to uphold the decisions as well. The criticism I've got is of the parliaments around this country that thought it was a good idea to hand lavish powers to bureaucrats and to chief health officers and so forth in order to concoct this sort of nonsense. I mean, we know none of that was ever scientific. It wasn't at the time, but this country was gripped by fear and mass formation psychosis, and that's what you get. And you're right, you're absolutely right. There can't be any forgiving and forgetting over this because we can't allow that to continue to happen in this country, and it will happen again if we're not vigilant.
Now, part of this relates to what you're pushing for in Parliament, and through a motion you want to put to Parliament, you want to get more information from government about contractual arrangements with the vaccine producers to find out what sort of guarantees, what sort of promises, what sort of detail was provided for these products to the government, which of course was your party when they were in power. What chance do you think you can flush out any of this information, or is it all going to be deemed commercial in confidence?
Well, we didn't even get that far, Chris. It's gone up and it's gone down all in the space of a very short amount of time. Our side, the coalition supported it, and all of the crossbench supported it as well. But guess what? The great champions of transparency, who we hear about it from them all the time, Labor and the Greens, didn't want a bar of it. They voted against it. So let's be clear about that. Labor and the Greens voted against the Australian people understanding the multi-billion-dollar deal that the government did with Big Pharma. And we now have no opportunity to scrutinise all of the things you just talked about, the indemnities. I mean, we're seeing now the rise in the prospect of litigation over some of these treatments. And as I understand it from contracts that have emerged from across other parts of the world, those indemnities fall back on the governments. So the Australian taxpayer is going to foot this, but Labor and the Greens, they don't want you to know. They've obviously come up with something to hide, which is very disappointing. But we will keep fighting for answers, because ultimately the Australian people are paying time after time after time for this period of our lives, and including the stuff we just saw before.
It's just extraordinary. Deals done under a coalition government, and still Labor and the Greens don't want to scrutinise that. Well, yeah, we will see where it goes. Thanks for pursuing it anyway, Senator. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chris.
Senator Alex Antic there. You'd want to know, wouldn't you? You want to know this stuff? Greens and Labor? Transparency? Integrity? Nah, keep it all quiet. We're only the mugs in this country. We're only the mugs who are forced to have vaccines in many cases, mandated, but we shouldn't know what deals the government did and what promises were made about the effectiveness of those vaccines. Unbelievable.